And we ask Allah to protect the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam from that which he feared for it. When it comes to fasting, then fasting, the obligation of fasting, it is of two types. The first type of obligatory fasting is one that is connected to a specific time. So this is the first type of obligatory fasting, the fasting that is fard. The first type is connected to a specific time, like fasting Ramadan. And the second type of fasting is the one that, the second type of obligatory fasting is the one that becomes necessary to fulfill. So it becomes necessary for you, it becomes obligatory upon you to fulfill that fast. Let's start again. There are two types of obligatory fasting. The first type of obligatory fasting is the one that is specific to a particular time. Examples of this are fasting in Ramadan, because that is in that month only. So it's obligatory to fast in Ramadan. And another example is the vow, the nadhr, to say, I vow for the sake of Allah that I'm going to fast on such and such day. So fasting that day becomes obligatory. So this is the first type of fasting. The first type of obligatory fasting, which is specific to a particular time. The second type of fasting, the second type of obligatory fasting is the one that a person is obligated to fulfill, but it is not like that of Ramadan. An example of this is a fast that one missed during Ramadan. So for a female, for example, who was menstruating, so she didn't fast at a particular time in Ramadan, she needs to make up these fasts. But she would do that after Ramadan, and there is no specific time in which she would do that, because she missed them whilst being excused. So she needs to make them up, and she needs to do that before she dies. And another type of fasting, another type of obligatory fasting that comes under the second category is when a person pays an expiation, when they fast because of a kafara that they had to pay. And it will come that somebody invalidated their fast, and then because of this they had to pay a kafara. They may have to fast for a particular time, for a particular amount of time. So the obligation of the obligatory types of fasting are two. One that is specific to a particular time, and the second that becomes a fast, an obligatory fast that one has to fulfill. As for the first, an example is the fasting of Ramadan. Now, the first type and the second type are different in the sense also that when you make your intention, the parameters and the boundaries within which you can make your intention are different. So let's start with the first. Let's look at a fast of Ramadan. If a person wants to fast the next day, if we are in Ramadan and a person wants to fast then the next day, when does a person need to make his or her intention? They need to make an intention to fast the next day between Al-Maghrib and Al-Fajr. This is how we start off. We say you need to make an intention between Al-Maghrib and Al-Fajr. So if a person, when the sun set, they had in their heart, they recognized that tomorrow is another day of Ramadan, and I'm going to fast tomorrow, then that's enough. Just to have the feeling in the heart, that's enough. A person might verbalize the statement. A person, if he or she wakes up for sahur, they might verbalize the statement. And they might say, nawaitu sawma ghadin. And there are many different ways in which they could say it, that I intend to fast the following day. So they might verbalize it and they might not verbalize it. But it's important that it falls, this intention, that it falls between the setting of the sun and then the fajr of the following day. So usually, in the past few years, we've had al-maghrib at, let's say, 9 p.m. approximately, right? About 9 o'clock, approximately. And al-fajr, let's say, for argument's sake, let's say at 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. So between 9 and 2, it's an example, or 3, they need to have had the intention to fast. Now let's say a person, and this usually happens at the beginning of Ramadan, that a person might forget. They might forget to make an intention for the next day because they experienced and endured the first day of Ramadan, and because of all the food and the hunger and the thirst, they ate at iftar, mashallah. They prayed al-maghrib. They ate. They opened their fast. They prayed at Taraweeh or Qiyam Ramadan, or they attended a religious lesson, and all this was happening because they're not used to. It's not a routine for them yet that they're fasting the next day. They're fasting the next day. They might forget to make an intention between al-maghrib and al-fajr. Now, let's say it was now 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and al-fajr has come in. The fajr prayer has started. But this person realized, oh, wait a second. It didn't even cross my mind that that I'm going to fast the next day. So here the scholars said that even if it's after fajr, as long as they didn't eat anything after al-fajr, as long as they didn't eat anything after al-fajr, and they made an intention to fast the next day before the religious midday, then their fast would be considered valid. So we've gone from them needing to intend between al-maghrib and al-fajr, which they forgot. Then al-fajr came in, but has the fast been lost? No. They can still fast with the condition that after al-fajr they didn't eat anything after al-fajr. And with the condition that they intend before the religious midday. What is the religious midday? So technically speaking, they've got from al-maghrib, past Isha, past al-fajr, all the way to the religious midday to make an intention, given that they didn't eat after al-fajr. What is the religious midday? The scholars, they call this ad-dahwatul kubra. Ad-dahwa al-kubra, the religious midday. The religious midday is between al-fajr and the following maghrib. So imagine now it's going to be al-maghrib. Imagine we were in Ramadan. So al-maghrib came in, we opened our fast, and then we did what people usually do during the nights of Ramadan. And one of us forgot to intend. They prayed al-Isha and they forgot to intend. They didn't remember to eat as-sahur because they forgot that tomorrow is another day of Ramadan. Then al-fajr came in and they realized, subhanallah, I didn't make an intention. But they didn't eat yet. And they can continue, if they make an intention before the religious midday, which is after Fajr. It is after Fajr goes out, after the sun rises, and it's just before al-Dhuhr. So the Dhuhr of tomorrow now. So imagine it's going to be al-Maghrib. then the dhuhr, just before the dhuhr of tomorrow. That is where the religious midday will be. And we'll also specify when it is exactly. So this person who forgot the intention between al-maghrib and al-fajr, let's give a practical example. They went to sleep after they opened their fast at 9 p.m. Then they fell asleep. They fell asleep through al-isha, through al-fajr, and they woke up at 9 a.m. in the morning. They woke up at 9 a.m. And they didn't have the intention to fast the next day. Can they still fast? Well, we ask the person, did you eat after al-fajr? You might not have known that al-fajr is in, but okay, did you eat last night? They might say, no, I didn't eat at all. I didn't eat after iftar. So, okay, you didn't eat after al-fajr. Okay, let's check now. Have we gone past the religious midday? Let's check. Have we gone past the religious midday? The person might ask you, how do you check if you've gone past the religious midday? You say, well, we look at the middle point between al-fajr that has just gone and between al-maghrib that is coming. What is the middle point? If 9 a.m. is before that point, then you who didn't eat after al-fajr, you can still intend to fast. If you intend to fast, then your fast would be valid for the reason that you would be considered to have fasted for most of the day. Let's take an example. So, let's say a person, let's say al-fajr is at 4 a.m. Al-fajr is at 4 a.m. A person forgot to make an intention between al-maghrib and al-fajr. So al-fajr came in. And this person did not eat after al-fajr. So al-fajr is at 4 a.m. And then al-maghrib, the following maghrib, so after fajr would be al-dhuhr, al-asr, al-maghrib, al-isha. Al-isha is at 9 p.m. The next, in the following, it's the following maghrib. So if you have al-fajr at 4 a.m. and then you have al-maghrib at 9 p.m., what is the midpoint between the two? What time? I'll wait. I know the answer because I worked it out beforehand. So, what time is the religious midday? We said the religious midday is between al-fajr and the following al-maghrib. The middle point between those two is called the religious midday. 12:30. 12:30. Very good. So, if this person did not make an intention between al-maghrib and al-fajr, and they did not eat after al-fajr, and then before 12:30, so let's say they woke up at 12, at noon, and they realize, I didn't make an intention, but I didn't eat. Here, if they make an intention, then their fast would be considered valid because they intended before the religious midday. So between al-fajr and al-maghrib, they intended before the middle point. So they would be considered to have fasted for most of the day. Can you imagine if the whole day, not 24 hours, but the whole day, from al-fajr to al-maghrib, while the sun is in the sky, it's between al-fajr and al-maghrib. So if they started their fast, they intended before the religious midday, before 12:30, then they would have been considered to have fasted for most of the day. How many hours between 4 a.m. and 9 p.m.? 4 a.m. and then 9 p.m. 17 hours. So if a person was to make an intention if the religious midday was 12:30 p.m. and a person made an intention at 12 p.m., how many hours would they be fasting? From 12 p.m. to 9 p.m., how many hours? 9 hours. And how many hours since al-fajr did they not fast? from 2 a.m. 8? Is it 8? 8.5? How does that work? So you see that they would have fasted most of the day. They fasted more than they didn't. Okay? So for this reason, the scholars said that the fast is valid. And remember here, we are speaking about the first type of obligatory fast, which is the fasting that is specific to a particular time. Some of the Hanafis, in some of their texts, like in Al-Quduri, which is one of Al-Mutun Al-Arba', one of the 4 main texts in which there is Zahir al-Riwayah, in which the sayings of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu anhu are narrated. In some of these texts, they mention Al-Dhuhr, that Al-Dhuhr is the midday point. But later, the honorable Hanafi scholars, they came and they said that this is not correct. It's not Al-Dhuhr. Al-Dhuhr is not the cutoff point, rather it's just before Al-Dhuhr. This midday, this cutoff point is called Al-Dahwatul Kubra. Al-Dahwa Al-Kubra. So, just to summarize, if we say that Al-Fajr is at 4 a.m. and the following Maghrib is at 9 p.m. This means that the time of Al-Dahwatul Kubra, i.e. the religious midday, would be 12:30 p.m. So as long as the person intends before 12:30 p.m., their fast would be valid. With what condition? That they didn't eat when? After Al-Fajr, basically, yeah. Likewise, if someone was to forget to make the intention between Al-Maghrib and Al-Fajr, as long as they don't eat anything after Al-Fajr and before the religious midday, their fast will be valid if they make an intention before Al-Dahwatul Kubra, before the religious midday. As for the second type of obligatory fast that we mentioned, like making up a fast of Ramadan, al-Qada, the Qada of Ramadan, if somebody wants to make up a fast, then he needs to make an intention between Al-Maghrib and Al-Fajr. Full stop. But if he's making up a fast, like if a woman, for example, or a man, if they missed a fast for whatever reason, they were traveling, or if they are making up a fast, then they don't have this leniency of intending up to the religious midday. No. Rather, their intention must fall between Al-Maghrib and Al-Fajr. As for the optional fasts, which we didn't talk about already, as for the optional fasts, a person has this leniency also of intending before the religious midday. And the intention, it must occur every single night. Every single night. So it's not the case that you can fast, you can intend one intention at the beginning of the month, and then that would carry through the rest of the month. No. You have to fast you have to intend every single night in the prescribed time. The reason for this is because, do you remember why? Do you remember why? You remember why? I mentioned this morning. What was it? That's the answer. Yeah. Every single day is an independent worship, isn't it? That's lovely that you did it though. like this. Every single day is an independent worship. And so every independent worship needs an independent intention. So that's why it's not enough for you to say, I'm going to intend at the beginning of the month that I'm fasting for the whole month, and that should be okay. No, you need to intend every single night, as we mentioned, or up to the religious midday. Now, there are two main things when it comes to the fast being invalidated. There are two main things that result in a kafara. So, in general, let's mention some of the things that revolve around invalidating the fast. So there are cases where a person might invalidate the fast and they would not be, they would be sinful, they would commit a major sin, they would have to make the fast up. After invalidating the fast, they would not be allowed to eat until al-Maghrib. And they would make it up. And in some cases, they would also have to give a kafara. They would have to pay an expiation. They would have to give something or do something in place of that fast that was invalidated. Now, the kafara, we're going to mention when it is due. It is due when somebody has sexual intercourse in a particular way, which we will mention, and when a person eats or drinks something in a particular way. We're going to mention what is upon this person. Two main things that result in a kafara are completely fulfilling one's sexual desire. Completely fulfilling. So remember the word completely. Okay? Because if it's incomplete, then there's no kafara. And we'll give examples of that. So if somebody completely fulfills one's sexual desire, and that is actually only through sexual intercourse in the private parts, then a kafara is due. As well as having invalidated the fast and having committed a major sin and not being able to eat for the rest of the day and it being obligatory upon them to perform al-qada, they have to pay a kafara. And I'll go through this slower. That is the first thing in which a kafara would be due, to have sexual intercourse in the way we mentioned. The second is to eat what is nutritious and medicinal. Nutritious or medicinal. If somebody eats or drinks something that is nutritious and or medicinal, then in a particular situation, there is a kafara that is due. In some schools, like the Shafi'i school, there is no kafara for eating and drinking on purpose. The fast is invalidated, it's a major sin, and they are obligated to make it up. But there would not be a kafara. But in the Hanafi school, yes, there is a kafara for this. A kafara. Committing either of the aforementioned two matters, so either sexual intercourse in a particular way, which we're going to mention, or eating and drinking in a particular way that we're going to mention, these two matters, committing either of them while fasting in Ramadan is considered a major transgression. It's considered a major transgression, like a major crime, if you will. Like what they call a jinayah, a crime. According to Islamic law, you might use this word when a person misses an obligatory prayer. you might say this is a jinayah. It's a major transgression. Islamically it's a crime not to pray. So if a person commits one of the two aforementioned matters, then this is considered a major transgression, and hence a kafara is due. This tells you then that if the transgression is not a major one, i.e. if it is a minor transgression, then the fast would be invalidated, but there would be no kafara. So now we'll give examples and you'll see the difference between a major transgression, when a person has intercourse in a particular way, or a person eats or drinks in a particular way, which is considered a major transgression, and hence a kafara is due, and between a minor transgression, which also it results in invalidating the fast, but there is no kafara due. The kafara is only due if the transgression is a major one. This is because this person has contradicted the apparent act of abstaining from the invalidators of fasting. Because if a person eats or drinks deliberately, then where is the apparent abstinence? Where is their staying away from eating and drinking? It's obvious they're eating and drinking. So if they do that and they are fulfilling the desire of the stomach or the private parts, then there is a kafara due. And hence this results in an expiation, which is the same expiation of al-zihar. And details upon that will come. Okay, so let's speak about some of these matters. And remember, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ تَعَلَّمُوا. O people, learn. O people, learn. So we are obligated to learn the religious knowledge that we are in need of. So we need to know what invalidates the fast and what it is that we need to stay away from. So in matters like this, when honorable Muslims gather, they don't shy away from things like certain details within the religious knowledge, because the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke about these things very openly so that it would be known. Some people, they don't speak about some of these matters in an open and sensible way, and what happens because of that is confusion, and they can end up committing lots of sins. So this is an introduction because certain matters are going to be mentioned now that some people are, subhanallah, who are not practicing Muslims, they may find this slightly strange. That is because they did not learn the religious knowledge. So, number one, that which invalidates the fast is sexual intercourse. The sexual activity that invalidates the fast is what? Because there may be many things that people consider to be sexual activity. So what is it that actually invalidates the fast? Because the person needs to know, what is this particular thing? So, do I have to make my fast up now? Or was I sinful or was I not sinful? These details need to be known. So the scholars, they made that available to people. They mentioned these matters in a sensible way. So the sexual activity that invalidates the fast is the insertion of the male organ into the female organ. This would invalidate the fast, whether it was the female private part at the front or the back. Now, this is even if a person was not fasting. We know through the religious knowledge that sodomy is haram, which would be to engage in intercourse with one's wife or other than one's wife in a way that is not in the front private part, rather in the back private part. This is impermissible. But here the scholars are mentioning a judgment. They're saying if it were to happen that a person had sexual intercourse with his wife in either of the private parts, then this would invalidate the fast. Whilst a person remembered full well that they are fasting. If they remembered full well that they are fasting, then this invalidates the fast. Just by this itself. So by merely one organ entering the other, this would invalidate the fast. One doesn't say, but the male, for example, didn't ejaculate. So no, this is not an issue that concerns the fasting. Once the male organ is inserted, and that's it, the fast is gone. Whether or not this person ejaculated. If this occurs, then his fast is invalidated and her fast is invalidated. Such a person would have committed a major sin. And if one's wife, for example, did that willingly, then also. So they would be sinful. The fast would be invalidated, number 2. They would not be able to eat or drink for the rest of the day, because this might be before al-Maghrib. If someone did that before al-Maghrib, then even for the rest of the day they cannot eat or drink or engage in anything that would invalidate the fast had they been fasting. Likewise, this fast, they have to perform al-qada for it. After Ramadan, after Al-Eid, they need to make up for it in a way that we're going to mention. And what is connected to this is the kaffara. They must pay a kaffara. The kaffara is upon the male, and also the kaffara is upon the female. So both of them, they would pay a kaffara. So this is the sexual activity which is considered a major transgression, which results in a kaffara. As for if one was intimate with one's wife, which is less than sexual intercourse, so it's not that the male organ was admitted into the female organ, no, because that's intercourse. Some sexual activity that was less than intercourse. In this case, if the male was to ejaculate, then this invalidates the fast. But this person, even though he has to make this fast up, he does not pay a kaffara. Why? Because we said the kaffara is for a major transgression. A major transgression to completely fulfill the desire of the private parts results in a kaffara. But this was not a major transgression in that the male organ was not introduced into the female organ. That would have been a major transgression. This, because it's not considered sexual intercourse, it's considered a minor transgression. So there is no kafara, even though the fast is invalidated. Likewise, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى, if a male was fasting and this is amongst the sins of the private parts, if a male was fasting and he masturbated, he touched himself, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى, until he ejaculated, then this would also invalidate the fast. But it's not considered a major transgression because it did not involve intercourse. Rather, this was a minor transgression, and therefore, although this person is sinful, although now his fast is invalidated, although he cannot eat or drink and so on for the rest of the day, although he has to perform al-qada for this day, he does not have to pay a kafara. The kafara, we're going to mention what it is. He does not have to pay a kafara. So this is with regards to sexual intercourse. If a person woke up and they had a wet dream, meaning that while they were asleep, they emitted mani, they emitted sexual fluid. This doesn't invalidate the fast. Whilst a person was asleep, so sometimes it might happen that whilst a person is asleep, they emit sexual fluid. It comes out by itself. This person is required to perform al-ghusl, but the fast is not invalidated by that. The fast is not invalidated. So this is the first of two matters. The first matter that if a person commits it, then a kafara is due, as well as all those other things. The second matter is eating and drinking. The second matter in which a person would be obligated to pay a kafara is if they ate or if they drank something during fasting, while they were fasting in Ramadan. So, if somebody was to eat or they were to drink during the day of Ramadan, when he or she was fasting, and they remembered, they were fully aware that they were fasting, if they eat or they drink, then the fast is invalidated. Furthermore, if they had eaten or drank something that was nourishing, like something other than a stone. If someone swallows a stone, it's not nourishing. Or they consume something medicinal through the mouth, something that is nutritious, or something that nourishes, something that is medicinal. If they consumed it knowingly, remembering that they were fasting, then as well as their fast being invalidated, as well as them committing a major sin, as well as them not being allowed to eat for the rest of the day until al-Maghrib, as well as having to make this fast up, or what is connected to making the fast up is that they have to pay a kafara, an expiation. And I said we will mention at the end what this expiation is, what this kafara is. The reason for this, why is it that there is a kafara here? The reason for this is that this person fulfilled even if it was slightly, fulfilled the desires of the stomach. Because they ate something that was nourishing, or they drank something that was nourishing. So for this reason, there is a kafara involved. However, if a person swallowed a stone on purpose, it's not something, the stone, believe me, it's not something that is a source of nourishment. So, if a person was to swallow a stone while they were fasting, the fast would be invalidated. Because something entered the body cavity through an open inlet, like the mouth. So the fast is invalidated. And they have to perform al-qada, but there is no kafara. Why is there no kafara? Because this is not a major transgression. They didn't fulfill the desire of the stomach. One of us doesn't say, I'm hungry, or let's go get those pebbles over there and eat them. That doesn't happen. If a person eats a stone or swallows a stone, they are not considered to be fulfilling a desire of the stomach. But because this person inserted such a thing into the mouth, the fast was invalidated. But there is no kafara. What if a person forgot that he was fasting and so he ate something? So here you have three cases within eating and drinking. Either a person ate or drank something on purpose, or they did that or they did that forgetfully, or they knew they were fasting, but they didn't deliberately invalidate their fast. So firstly, we spoke about someone deliberately invalidating their fast. Secondly, you could say a person not deliberately invalidating their fast. And thirdly, forgetting that they were fasting. In the first case, if someone consumes something whilst knowing that they are fasting, something that nourishes or is medicinal, this invalidates the fast. There's a sin and there is a kafara. As for this case now, let us mention the case about a person who forgot. They forgot that they were fasting. And so because of this, they ate or they drank. If a person forgot that he or she was fasting, and as a result they ate something or they drank something, then this fast is not invalidated. This fast is not invalidated. A person may have forgotten that he or she was fasting, and they might eat a whole pizza, or they might eat a 3-course meal with mango lassi on top. They might eat a lot. But they didn't recall that they were fasting. They forgot. It completely escaped their mind that they were fasting. They were in a trance, it seems, because of the food that was on the table. They forgot. This person's fast is not invalidated. This is because Ibn Hibban, he narrated in his Sahih, which is a book in which he collected Sahih narrations, as well as Ad-Daraqutni in his Sunan, in a book which he called Sunan, As-Sunan. They both narrated that a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, I was fasting, but I ate and I drank out of forgetfully. I ate forgetfully and I drank forgetfully. I didn't remember I was fasting. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Atimma sawmak, continue fasting. أتم صومك. Continue fast, complete your fast. فإن الله أطعمك وسقاك. For indeed it is Allah who gave you to eat, and it is Allah who gave you to drink. You would know some of the easiest fasts that you have fasted are the ones where in the middle of the day you decided to open the fridge, and be it forgetfully, you had an extra sandwich. That sandwich it carried you through. This was something that Allah Ta'ala created for you. Allah Ta'ala made it easier for you. So this is not a reason for your fast to be invalidated. And in the narration of Ad-Daraqutni, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam added, he said, وَلَا قَضَاءَ عَلَيْكَ. وَلَا قَضَاءَ عَلَيْكَ. And there is no qada upon you. There is no qada upon you. In another narration, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, إِذَا أَكَلَ الصَّائِمُ نَاسِيًا أَوْ شَرِبَ نَاسِيًا. If the fasting person eats out of forgetfulness, or he drinks out of forgetfulness, فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ رِزْقٌ سَاقَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. For indeed this is rizq. This is rizq. It doesn't invalidate his fast. فَلَا قَضَاءَ عَلَيْهِ. And there is no qada upon this person. This is the case of a person who forgot that he was fasting. So we've mentioned eating something nourishing or medicinal on purpose whilst fasting. This invalidates the fast. We've mentioned the case of somebody forgetting that they were fasting. We said this does not invalidate the fast. Let us mention a third case now of a person who says, for example, what if I did not intentionally eat or drink? What if I didn't intentionally eat or drink? This has it that this person, he knew he was fasting. He or she, it wasn't that they deliberately ate something whilst they were fasting, or that they forgetfully ate or drank something. No. This person consumed something whilst remembering they were fasting without intending to consume it. The answer is that if a person did not intentionally eat or drink, we'll mention how, or a person was forced to do so, they were forced to eat or drink, they ate something or they drank something that was nourishing or medicinal, then this person's fast is invalidated. And a person has to perform al-qada, but there is no kaffara. An example is when a person is performing al-wudu and they insert water into their mouth to perform al-madmadah. Now when they're fasting, so when they put water in their mouth to perform al-madmadah, they move the water around and then they spit it out. If they do that, then whilst fasting, they shouldn't exaggerate. They shouldn't put it in and then all the way to the back, because it's feared that droplets would go through. They would go past the point which they shouldn't go in fasting. So this person, he knew he was fasting and he performed al-madmadah. So what happened was that some of the water went down. He didn't swallow it deliberately. He didn't say, let me just, pretend I'm doing al-madmadah and I'll sip a bit, I'll have a few drinks. No. He put water in his mouth, he wanted to spit it all out, and some of it went down. Now this person is to blame. He is to blame because he shouldn't be exaggerating in the first place. And so, this person's fast is invalidated. His fast is invalidated because he accidentally swallowed water, he exaggerated, so he is to blame. And he remembered he was fasting. His fast is invalidated, and he has to perform al-qada. But here there is no kafara. Why? Because this was not a major transgression. Because he did not, this image, this scenario, it was not one in which he completely fulfilled the desire of the stomach. Rather, he swallowed something accidentally. Another example of a person who did not intentionally drink or eat is someone who is fasting and he or she goes swimming whilst remembering that he or she is fasting. So what would happen? Usually some water would go in. Some water would go in through the nose. It would go in. So if this occurs and this person knew that they were fasting, then this invalidates their fast. It invalidates this person's fast, and this person has to perform al-qada because water entered the body cavity. But there is no kafara. There is no kafara because this person did not completely fulfill a desire of the stomach. Remember, the kafara is only obligatory when a person completely fulfills the desire of the private parts through sexual intercourse, or the desire of the stomach, either by administering something that is nourishing or medicinal into the body cavity through an open inlet. This is where the kafara is due, otherwise it is not. You see in these examples where the kafara is due, this scenario, it shows you that this particular case, in it there was a major transgression. This person deliberately had sexual intercourse, for example, or this person deliberately ate or drank something that was nutritious. Then all the other cases that you find, like we mentioned about that person, a person who masturbates whilst he is fasting until he ejaculates. This invalidates the fast, but it's not the same as the major transgression, which was sexual intercourse itself. There the kafara would be due. Likewise here, a person who doesn't eat deliberately, but they knew they were fasting. Here the transgression is a minor transgression, not a major one, because they didn't fulfill the desire of their stomach. They didn't completely fulfill it. So here, in some of these cases, you will see now that there's something there. There's something there that blurs the image of it being a complete and major transgression, and hence it is a minor transgression. So the example, the first one, is in the form of a question. What if a person was eating sahur and they thought that al-fajr has not yet entered? But in actual fact, al-fajr has entered. Al-fajr is in. What is the judgment of their fast? So this person was eating sahur, thinking that I've got some time. But in actual fact, al-fajr was already in. So now they're eating after al-fajr. What is the case here? The answer is that the fast for this day is not valid. The fast for this day is not valid. The fast needs to be made up, so there is qada involved. Qada. And this person is obligated not to eat or drink or to have sexual intercourse and so on for the rest of the day. because of the sanctity of Ramadan, because of the holiness of Ramadan. Ramadan is to be respected and esteemed and glorified. A person doesn't eat during the day of Ramadan, especially in this case when they have invalidated their fast. But there is no kafara. You see, there is no kafara. Because the person, it's not like they knew that, I'm not allowed to eat now and I'm going to fulfill the desire of my stomach. No, they didn't know. So because of this, because they didn't know that Al-Fajr is in, and hence they ate after the prescribed time, this transgression is considered a minor transgression, like a lesser crime. Likewise, the same, if we look at the opposite scenario in some ways, or a complementary scenario. What if a person opens his fast thinking that the sun has set? So he thinks the sun has set, but in reality it has not. What is the judgment? The judgment is that the fast for that day is not valid, even though there were a few minutes left, or maybe even a few seconds left, but the person thinking that they are opening their fast actually invalidated their fast. This fast needs to be made up again, qada. This person is obligated to refrain from eating for the rest of the day, be it a minute. They're not allowed to say, the fast's gone now, just let me eat. But there is no kafara also. Because this person didn't, it's not like they knew Al-Maghrib is not in and I'm going to eat whilst Al-Maghrib isn't in. No, they didn't know. So the transgression is a minor one. What if a person swallowed something that is not nourishing? If someone swallowed something like a stone, like we mentioned, this invalidates the fast because something entered the body through the body cavity, via the mouth. It entered the body cavity via the mouth. So here there is qada and no kafara. If a person does not intend to fast, so let's have this in the form of a question. If a person does not intend to fast, and hence he or she does not fast, and they would be sinful if they are obligated to fast, does this person have to pay a kafara for each time that he eats, drinks, or has sexual intercourse during the day of Ramadan? Is each time they eat another kafara? Each time they drink another kafara? And so on? The answer is no. There is no kafara upon this person at all. Because the one who the kafara is due upon is the one who began fasting and then invalidated his fast. So this is the one upon whom there is a kafara. There are some more details about other open inlets that we... Let's see. Okay, even before we get to that. The kafara, we said we would mention, the kafara is that a person has to, if they invalidate a fast by engaging in sexual intercourse in the specific way that we mentioned. then there is a kafara. Or if they eat or drink in the specific way that we mentioned, so not forgetfully, not inadvertently, but deliberately they consume something that is that nourishes or is medicinal, then a kafara is due. A kafara, this is the same kafara as the kafara of al-zihar. In the religious knowledge, you have two types of kafara. There is a kafara which is known as kafaratul qatl, and another one which is kafaratul zihar. Al-qatl is when a person, a Muslim for example, he murders another Muslim. There are certain things involved and there is a kafara. There's always a kafara. That kafara is different. That payment, that expiation is different to a second kafara, which is the kafara of al-zihar. Al-zihar, when a man, he commits the sin of saying to his wife, for example, that I will not have sexual intercourse with you, just like I do not do that with one of my, with my mother or my sister. This is mentioned in the Quran, that somebody said this once in the time of the Prophet ﷺ to his wife. So this ayah was revealed, and the details of this were revealed. So what is upon such a person is to free a slave. So in order to free a slave, they need to first buy a slave. A person can't see a slave, someone else's slave, and says, you're free. No, they have to purchase the slave. They look for a slave, they purchase a slave, and then they free the slave. So a person who a person who invalidates a fast of Ramadan by committing sexual intercourse, or by eating or drinking something that contains nourishment, or it is medicinal, like drinking, for example, a glass of water deliberately during the day of Ramadan when you know you are fasting. Or if a person has a plate of, food, give me food. Get it Allah. There you are. People are thinking it's late. Yeah, we need to go home and get a bit of or someone eats or drinks deliberately. Then what do they need to do? Because they invalidated one fast, they need to pay a kafara. What is that? They need to go free a slave. If they are unable, if they have to go and look, if they are unable to find a slave, what they do in brief is, because of that one fast, they need to fast now in place of it for 2 consecutive months. Other than Ramadan. So they don't include Ramadan in it. So they might fast for 60 days. They might fast for 60 days. They might fast for 58 days. And they might fast for 59 days. 58, 59 or 60. The month might be, both months might be 29 days. One month might be 29, the other 30. Or both months might be 30 days. So this person needs to fast for 30 days because he broke one fast. If a person did that for a few days, they broke a fast of Ramadan and they transgressed a major transgression, then they have lots of days to make up. If they're not able to do that, then they feed 60 poor people. They feed 60 poor people. Either half a sa' or a sa'. There's a certain amount that they give. Inshallah, next week we will mention details of that. But really quickly, likewise what invalidates the fast is if somebody introduces a medicine into the anus. This invalidates the fast. Likewise, if somebody snorts something into the nose, such that it goes past the soft part up here, then this invalidates the fast. Pouring drops into one's ear, if a person pours drops into the ear, then this invalidates the fast. Drops of oil, for example. As for water, then the Hanafis agreed that if water enters the ear by itself, this does not invalidate the fast. Like if you're having a shower. A person is having a shower, water might descend into the ear. This does not invalidate the fast. As for if someone themselves, they got water and they inserted it into the ear, there is a difference of opinion according to the Hanafis. Some said it invalidates the fast and some said that it does not. Likewise, if a male injects drops of medicine into the urethra, this does not invalidate the fast, according to Abu Hanifa. Lastly, vomiting, being sick. If somebody induces vomit, meaning they make themselves vomit, like they put their finger in their mouth, and they keep doing that until they vomit. If they vomit a mouthful is an amount which if you were to try to keep it in, you wouldn't be able to. If you were to try to keep it in like that, you wouldn't be able to, it would come out, or it would come out of your nose. Here, this invalidates the fast. If they induce vomit, not if just, they see something nasty and then they're sick, no, that's something else. If they induce vomit, then this, if it is a mouthful, it invalidates the fast, and there is no qada. There is qada and there is no kaffara. There is qada and there is no kaffara. As for if someone was overcome by vomit, then this does not invalidate the fast, even if it was a mouthful. So vomiting naturally, this does not invalidate the fast. If somebody was to vomit naturally, without inducing that vomit, and then some of it returns, because someone might be sick and they can't control it, they're sick, and then some of it might return, it might come past this part here to the apparent part of the mouth, and then it goes back. If this that went back, if it was less than a mouthful, then this does not invalidate the fast. If it was less than a mouthful, it does not invalidate the fast. And we'll stop there, inshaAllah ta'ala. Let us say La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi.